Are you a parent? Do you sometimes struggle hoping that you haven't broken your kid? We've all been there. And today's guest on YQG and Bloom is an empowering parent expert, family law attorney, and transformational speaker, Jacqueline Cheng.
Hi, thank you, Tracy. I'm so happy to be here today.
I'm so happy that you're here too, and I'm so happy that I got that in one take. That's a lot. I've never heard of an empowered parenting expert.
Right.
Can you explain to us what that is?
Okay, so I'm actually an empowered parenting coach. So that's one of the things that I do, alongside being an attorney and a positive discipline parent educator. That's also a mouthful.
I know.
So the type of coaching that I do, it's really very transformative. What we focus on really is working with parents to empower them. So you're working with the parent to empower the mom and the dad to become the leader in their home. So they lead by example. That's really in a nub what it's all about.
It's also about breaking the parenting cycle, because from when I was growing up, you were growing up, my parents growing up, things have changed and evolved. Our knowledge of parenting has evolved. So
yes,
it's a hard pattern to break when that's all you know.
Absolutely. And you hit the nail on the head there, Tracy, because for many of us, we grew up in a very sort of power over parent style of parenting where our parents were like, do as I say. You don't speak unless you're spoken to. And there was like very harsh punishment meted out to you when you were being defiant or you were found to be misbehaving. So a lot of us had that very harsh way of parenting. And what the science shows, Tracy, is that sort of very harsh way of parenting, which really is a punishment, really, it doesn't really serve the child long term. It actually impedes their brain development. So this new way of parenting, the modern way, what we're focused on in terms of empowered parenting, is really about creating an emotional connection with you and your child so that you can guide them through. And we're not allowing them to run amok. We do discipline them, but we discipline them in non-punitive ways so that we teach them, we guide them. They're still essentially a student, because if you think about the root word of discipline, it's disciple.
Yep.
And what's a disciple? A student.
Yeah.
So how do we treat with our students? We guide, we support, and we teach them. But we teach them to take responsibility and accountability when they mess up. We teach them about learning coping skills, emotional regulation. We teach them how to problem solve their way through solutions so that next time they can do better, basically.
It's very overwhelming being a parent.
Oh, yes.
And I couldn't imagine being a parent nowadays where we have the internet and there's this huge thing about screen time. And I know that's a battle for many parents. Yeah. How do you suggest that they handle that?
So even in my home, I would admit that screen time battles is a thing. I have three boys, a 9-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 4-year-old. So for us in the positive discipline world, what we focus on doing is helping our children to take responsibility for their actions, guiding them through so that they can manage their time better. And rather than saying, hey, if you don't come off your device now, you're grounded for the week in terms of no device time, what we want to do is, and the kind of approach we take really, is one where we say, hey, I get it. I know you want to be on the device all day long. Wouldn't it be lovely? And the device time is over. So what we're doing is we're showing them kindness and firmness at the same time. We're empathizing. I get it. I understand.
Yeah.
And time is over. And that's where you place the boundary. Time's over. If you are struggling, and even up to yesterday, my sons were struggling, and I reminded them that it's over. If you're struggling to come off, I'm going to come over there and I'm going to have to help you with your struggle by taking your device away from you. So that's what we want to do. We want to be clear and consistent with our boundary setting, so to speak, but still showing empathy and understanding for where they're at. Because it's like watching a juicy movie, Tracy.
And you want to finish it.
Exactly. Correct.
That's where I think the devices are harmful to me for the kids, Because when I was, like, my son's, he's going to be 31, and you didn't have a device for in the car.
Yes.
And to keep them quiet while you're driving somewhere, you turned on the radio or you talked to them, you sang to them. They had their toys, they had their books. And now it just seems that is what parents use, a device in the car to keep them quiet, a device here, device there.
That's a really valid point. You have to really be, and it's sad to say, you have to be like a police over them sometimes, because there's so much stuff that goes on in the internet world and social media online that you've got to manage what they're watching to a large degree, and it must be age appropriate. But we also want them to know that, hey, you've got to take responsibility. So if there are no shorts, like for instance with my boys, the rule is there's no shorts to be watched on YouTube. So we would be around, and ever so often if they're on shorts on YouTube, we would gently remind them that, hey, if you're struggling, I'm going to have to come over there and change it for you. And you give them the choice. It's about trying to show them that we understand how they feel. We understand you want to do this, and it feels great in the moment to watch these inappropriate things, and it's not suitable. So I'm going to have to come over and help you to get off it without the punishment, without grabbing it from you necessarily. If I have to, and I have to like guide you off it, I would. But yeah, those words, if we start using those kinds of words from now, what we're doing is we're building their empathy level. We're growing their emotional intelligence, and that's what we want, emotionally intelligent kids who can relate to other people in a social setting, who can learn about their own emotions and the emotions of others, right?
That is true.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Oh, it does. But it's something like, it's foreign because not a lot of people talk to their children in a mature way.
Right, yeah.
They talk to them. And I mean, some adults too, you got to talk to them in childish ways.
Yes.
But that's another
story.
That's a whole other story. I mean, I'm looking at some of these things here because it's been so long since I've had to have a kid, and I know how overwhelming it is. Like, I'm reading here on parents who are feeling like they've tried everything and nothing seems to work. How do you help them out when they have a kid that's just, they're not listening and they're being defiant?
Yeah, that's a really tough one. And in fact, a lot of the moms that I've had, have worked with, that's one of the biggest challenges. Like, my kid isn't listening, just isn't listening. So what I would say to that, Tracy, is that every child's different. There's no one size fits all. Every family is different, or family values are all different. So generally what we like to do in the sort of empowered parenting world and positive parenting world is to connect with our children. And I mean connect in a moment when their brain is online. So like, can I show you my brain?
Yeah, show the brain. I've been dying to see it.
My brain. So this is my little brain model here, right, Tracy? I'm going to keep it as simple as possible and not be too geeky about it. So this is the front of the brain, which is like this part of the brain. It's called the prefrontal cortex. This is the part of the brain, and this is a cross-section, but I'll get to the cross-section shortly. This part of the brain, which is at the front, is actually the part of the brain that is responsible for decision-making, logical thinking, and emotional regulation. That part of the brain does not start developing until around age 6 or 7.
Wow.
And it doesn't take full form until around age 25 to 28.
Well, that explains a lot from my kids that are what we're calling later on in the 20s. And
right. And if you think back about it, reflect for a moment, when we were in our 20s, or even in our 30s, we were making silly mistakes. We were still having trouble to make certain decisions. And even now, as full-grown 45-year-old adults, which is what I am, we have moments where we struggle emotionally. And that's because this part of the brain would have gone into like offline fight-flight mode. So we don't want to approach our children when they're not engaged in this part of the brain. When they're struggling in the moment, it means that part of the brain isn't engaged. So they're not listening. We don't want to have a conversation with them when their brain is offline, because then they're living in this part of the brain, which is really like the emotional part of the brain, the amygdala.
Okay.
It's like a little almond just around here. So it's like a little almond shaped part of the brain.
Yeah.
So it's like the lower reptilian part of the brain where they're literally in fight, flight, freeze mode. If you can I can put it that way. And we don't want to lecture them. We don't want to question them or give them to discipline them. We want to wait till they're in a calmer state when the frontal cortex is engaged. Have a conversation, an empowered conversation. What I've noticed, what I've observed, this is how it makes me feel. For instance, there's spilled milk on the floor in my kitchen that my 4-year-old spilled. And, you know, his frontal cortex hasn't started to develop yet. So I have to be very mindful of that fact. And he's living in his emotional brain, the amygdala. So I say, hey, guys, there is spilled milk on the floor. It's making me feel really worried because I want to have safety. I have a need for safety. So we need to have this cleaned up. Will you help me clean this up so we can all be safe? So what I'm doing there is I'm literally saying what I observe, how I'm feeling, what I need, and making a request. So that's called non-violent communication. It's like a 4-step process that Dr. Marshall Rosenberg has coined. And actually it's in one of my books here.
If somebody was to say, hey guys, somebody spilled the milk. I don't want anybody to fall and hurt themselves. Can you help me clean it? Is that saying exactly the same thing?
Exactly the same thing. It's just about what you've seen, what you've observed.
Yeah, and without judging
there's no blame,
yelling.
There's no shame.
I mean, everybody spills milk.
Exactly. There's no blame or shame.
Happen.
Correct. You're just saying, hey, this is what I see, this is how I'm feeling, this is what I need, and I'm making a request. I need some help in the kitchen kind of thing, right? So that way we're not blaming and shaming them. But just to track back a bit on your question, yes, if they're not listening, we want to engage them when they're in that calm zone, when their prefrontal cortex is engaged, and then we have a conversation with them about your concerns, your worries, and what's happening to them and to yourself and how it's affecting the family dynamic.
So if they're just in a, I'm not going to listen, I like to call it the little frenzy.
Right, yes.
Just say, okay, you know what? We're going to sit down for a minute. We're going to take a few deep breaths. And once they've calmed down, then that's the time to have the conversation?
Exactly, because by then their prefrontal cortex is now re-engaged. Their brain is now online, not offline, like I say to my kids.
Yeah.
And you know, remember, between age 6 and 7 to age 25 to 28, that's a huge span there. So we can't expect our 6 and 7 and 8-year-olds to have the same level of capacity like our 15-year-olds or 18-year-olds, right? So we have to be mindful of that so that we lower our expectations when we communicate with them.
It's overwhelming to think of, but if you start it right from the get-go, I think it makes it a lot easier. And I think it's a lot easier nowadays because when my son was growing up, when I first had him, and like I said, he's 31, we were just starting to change the way that parenting was.
And that's the thing. What it shows is that when we persistently spank our kids, for instance, it really does impact their child development, their brain development, right? It kind of shuts them down because now they're afraid. They're afraid to open up to you because they're afraid of being judged and shamed and blamed and punished. And they're not really learning any skills when we punish them or if we spank them.
Okay, they spilled the milk. What is spanking going to do? It does nothing. Making them clean it up,
absolutely.
That's more, to me, that's more of a punishment than spanking them because that's a pain in the butt to have to clean that up.
But it teaches them responsibility and accountability. And they know next time, hey, if I spill the milk, rather than mommy coming to me, I better just clean it up, right?
Right. I really like the fact that you are guiding the children. It's helping them to think about things, to understand consequences in a nice way instead of in a this is your consequence kind of way.
Yes, yep. And the thing is with consequences, so if your child goes outside without a jacket in the winter, there's a natural consequence. They're going to probably freeze their butt off,
Yeah.
and they're going to come back in and get their jacket. So we let them figure it out. You go out
Exactly.
there, you see what happens, and then you're going to come in and get your jacket. There's also the logical consequences. That's like let's go back to the screen time. When my kids are struggling to come off, time is up, the timer goes off because we use timers in our home as well, and he's refusing to come off. So every minute you go over your time, your allotted time or agreed time, is going to be deducted from the next day. Mm-hmm. That's a logical consequence because it's relatable, it's reasonable, it's realistic, and they then learn to manage their time even better. So that's a consequence, but it's not a punitive one where we say, hey, go to your room, stay there until I tell you to come out, right? Which causes them to shut down. And they then become unwilling to kind of open up and speak to you and tell them what's going on in their mind, what they're thinking, what they're feeling, and what they're struggling with.
But it's also teaching them to think ahead.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
yeah, I can play this some more, but
Yes.
tomorrow
Yes.
I'm not going to have it.
Yeah.
So, and then tomorrow, what am I going to do?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, you were a family law attorney. In fact, you still are.
I still practice law. Yeah, I'm still an attorney.
Now, what brought on the parenting coaching?
So that's a great question. Thank you for asking. I found myself, this was about 3 years ago, I found myself struggling. So I was a struggling mom with 2 young boys, feeling overwhelmed, anxious, worried, and concerned with having to deal with tantrums, the meltdowns, the big emotional outbursts with my young son. And being the problem-solving lawyer that I am, I went on a quest. I went on a quest to find a solution or a fix for my son, thinking that something was wrong with him. What I discovered, Tracy, was that it wasn't about fixing my son, because what I learned was, again, the simple brain science. Mm-hmm. My son's brain, his logical thinking brain, emotional regulation brain, had not yet started to develop. So that caused a huge relief in me. Oh, that's normal. It's normal to have tantrums at 3.5 years old. It's normal to have meltdowns. And what I learned more and more fundamentally was that it was about me. Mm-hmm. Learning how to manage my emotional triggers. When I started feeling frustrated, overwhelmed, and anxious because of his tantruming, I needed to find my level of groundedness and calm. I needed to manage my body, because growing up, no one taught me emotional regulation. No one taught me that it's okay to feel frustrated, it's okay to feel disappointed and angry and sad and the whole range of emotions. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure about you, but we weren't raised in an emotionally intelligent way. So now I found myself in a position where I'm able to now learn to manage my emotions. And I saw the immediate shifts with my kids and realized that, hey, the more I was able to manage me,
they were feeding off your energy.
Absolutely. So I was able to co-regulate with them and lend them my calm. And so tantrums started to de-escalate a bit. It wasn't as explosive as before. And because it was working for me and my family, I thought, wow, oh my gosh, this is so inspiring. Mm-hmm. This is my purpose. This is my passion. I want to help other struggling moms and dads out there who think that something's wrong with their kids, but really it's about us learning to manage our emotions and our triggers.
Now, do you work with parents one-on-one, or are you a speaker, or is it group settings? How does that work?
Right. So I do one-on-one coaching. I do group coaching. I also recently became a positive discipline parent educator. So that's a new, that's like more of an experiential type of workshop where the parents would come in and we would literally do role play so that the parents kind of become like their kids. They put themselves in the shoes of their child so mm-hmm. they can kind of really experience what their child is thinking, feeling, and deciding to do in the moment. I also do a lot of speaking for local agencies, and actually quite recently I was invited to sit on the family, and this is a bit of a mouthful, family well-being and family safety and well-being community coordinating committee, of the Windsor Essex Children's Aid Authority.
Wow.
So I've been there like 3 months now, sitting on their committee. So that has given me the opportunity to provide complimentary talks as well, so that I'm sharing with the community, and I'm giving back to the community in a way, which I completely and absolutely love. It's so rewarding, Tracy, when you see families transform with the work you're doing.
Oh, I bet.
Right? And now I'm also writing in the BizX magazine. I've actually had like 3 publications already.
Nice.
So that's pretty exciting. So I'm sharing my knowledge and my wisdom and my experience through my articles. My 4th one will be out article will be out in March. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah. How is this form of parenting or parental teaching being welcomed in the Windsor area?
So Windsor, Essex is a very diverse area. So you have a lot of people from all walks of life with so many different cultural backgrounds, religious belief systems. So culturally, it's new for many cultures. So it's a new concept to get around your head. Like, I can't spank my kids. I shouldn't yell persistently at my child because it might cause them to not develop cognitively like they would ordinarily. It's new. It's still evolving, but they're open to it. They're willing to learn and to listen, which is wonderful, because at the end of the day, they get to choose what's best for their family. They get to choose what aligns with their family values and what works and makes sense. So we act as more like facilitators. We're here to impart the information and share and guide with you. And at the end of the day, it's your beautiful children. So you get to make the final decision on what works well for you.
That's wonderful, because that's what I was wondering. We are such a culturally diverse area with so many different nationalities, religions, that they all have different ways of doing things.
Absolutely,
so that's wonderful that they're all coming together. Now, when you started implementing these changes in your home, did you find that you were a lot less stressed?
Oh my gosh. I can't describe it, Tracy. It was literally like a little light bulb went on in my head. And look, initially my window of tolerance was like this.
Yeah.
Now it's like this. I kid you not. Yes, I still lose my crap. Yes, I still yell occasionally. Yes, I still get frustrated. Because I'm human.
I was just going to say that.
I'm not a robot. And that's the wonderful thing. Like, we get to learn and grow with our children. It's about transforming ourselves and them together. So they see the beauty in us transforming before their very eyes. And they realize, like, hey, mom's not perfect. That's okay. I don't need to be perfect either.
And that's great, because that's the worst thing about being a parent, is beating yourself up if you're not doing it right, like how the experts say you should do it. I'm breaking my kid, and they're going to turn up to be like in a gang or in jail or something.
Yeah,
and
that
to know that
guilt.
We yell still, and it's okay.
It's you know what it is, Tracy? Like, we are humans. We're not robots. We're not programmed to be like one-minded. What it is about the intentionality. We intend to do better. We want to do better. We want to learn how to better manage our bodies by pausing ourselves, catching ourselves in the moment when we feel that sensation rising and we're about to lose our calm. Like, okay, Jacqueline, pause for a moment. You can get through this. You've been through this before. You can get through it again. Breathe. Ground yourself. Then show up for your child as best as you can in that moment, because every time it's going to be different. And that's the beauty, because you get to repair. Oh my gosh, Tracy, like repairing after a rupture. That's one of the best tools. If, we as coaches, we give so many tools to parents and offer them so many strategies to connect to their kids. Repairing. When I've made a mistake, I go up to my kid. Like the other day, my son was in the living room. I was cooking dinner, and he hates chicken.
Who hates chicken?
Yeah, he hates chicken, but he'll eat chicken nuggets. So I was baking some chicken. I
love kids.
I know, right? He'll have chicken nuggets, but he won't have a nice homemade cooked chicken that's baked in healthy spices. Oh my God, I hate chicken. And of course, I'm exhausted. It's a long day. It's the end of the night. I'm like, what the hell you mean you don't like chicken? So I lost my calm and I yelled, right? It's very rare that I would really lose it, but I did. And I had to calm myself down. And then after dinner, I had to go to him and say, earlier on when I yelled at you, I'm like, I'm really sorry. Mommy lost her cool in the moment. And you know that we're working together as a family, all of us, to learn to manage our triggers and our emotions. And I'm trying to do better, as we all are, you, me, your dad, and your brothers. And we do a really good repair.
Yeah.
Right? And we say, hey, we make amends. And they appreciate that. It's so game-changing, Tracy, doing that repair in a sincere way.
Well, and especially when you're not usually a yeller.
And that's the thing, Tracy. We don't need to place so much pressure on ourselves to be this perfect parent. It's like there's this parenting myth that we must always be perfect and do right by our children 24/7. It's just not realistic.
No.
It's just not realistic. So there's no such thing as a perfect parent, including myself. I mess up all the time. But what I do is I try to make amends. I apologize. I'm sincere. I'm open. I'm honest. I have conversation and dialogue. And that's what we do. And a lot of the mums that we work with and that I've actually helped through coaching, for them doing the repair part has been the most game-changing part of parenting with intentionality and purpose.
Now, I'm looking on the paper because this is completely new to me, so I appreciate the heck out of you sending me some topics because I only had the one child, so I wouldn't even have thought of this. Now, how do you handle sibling rivalry?
Oh my gosh.
Especially without killing them both.
So 3 boys, imagine that. Not 1, not 2, but 3. I'm like, God, you know best. When you gave me 3 boys, you knew exactly what you were doing. Well, I'm still trying to figure it out.
Or what did I do
What
wrong?
did I do wrong? Because my mother bought pink stuff for my kids when she first found out that I was pregnant. She bought like pink teddy bears. And with my 3rd son, she finally gave them away. So I said, 3 boys, okay. You know, but for my 3 boys, I wouldn't be sitting here today, Tracy, right? Because it's because of them I chose to lead this path that I'm in and to be here to help other struggling mums. Sibling rivalry is a big thing in our home because we have 3 different boys with different personalities, with different wants and needs and beliefs and thoughts and different ages as well. Traditionally, and I'm thinking about my childhood as well, like, parents would jump in to save the younger one from the older one because the younger one needs protecting. In our mind, we're thinking, oh, I need to rescue my little one. He's going to be hurt by my older son. But when we do that, Tracy, like what the science shows is that we're essentially taking sides. So we're causing a rift or disconnect.
And that's why people always say the babies are the favorites.
Right. But what we want to do is we want to basically show that we're there for everyone. What I like to say is put yourself in the shoes of a mediator, a middleman. So you're going in there. If there's a big physical fight, which happens still in my home, we want to jump in, obviously, to an extent, if they can't figure it out themselves. But ultimately, we want them to figure it out themselves, right? But if there's a big physical fight, I'm just giving an example, my son's fight, part them, first of all, so there's safety. I'm going to hear you, and I'm going to hear you. When you're calm, because in that moment their brain again is offline. They're thinking from the emotional brain. So when they've calmed down, I want to hear what you've got to say, I want to hear what you've got to say, and then we'll hear each other. So we're guiding them through to explaining what they were thinking and feeling in that moment when they're fighting physically. So we're not taking the sides, we're not blaming and shaming anyone, we're not saying you're the bully, or we're not saying you're the victim. We're saying we need to work together. I understand what you're feeling and thinking. Let's talk this through. It's generally the approach we want to take.
Back in the day, you always had the oldest one was always kind of treated like crap because they were the oldest. They should have known better. And then you have the middle one that's usually ignored so they can slide under the radar and get away with things. And then you also have the baby that everybody favored because everybody else was picking on the baby.
Absolutely.
So then they would act out. And a lot of times I found that they didn't know how to cope because somebody was always taking care of them.
Absolutely.
And this way you are creating 3 strong, independent individuals that are able to sort things out, including the baby of the family.
Absolutely, because ultimately we want them to learn how to resolve their own issues. When they go into the big wide world, they've got to resolve their issues. They can't come to me or to you necessarily in the moment when they're in a pickle.
Yeah.
They're going to have to figure it out. They're going to have to resolve it. So we want to guide them through to learn the skills, the social and life skills, to figure things out and solve it for themselves ultimately. So we give them that space to do that ultimately, without anyone feeling like I'm the bad person, mommy's always picking on me, or he's always the goody two-shoe. No, I'm not taking sides, sorry. And I say that to my boys.
Yeah.
And that's what I teach moms. Hey, tell them I'm here as a mediator, so I'm not taking your side or your side. Mm-hmm. I'm here to help you sort it out if you can't sort it out yourself.
Yep.
So next time you can do it better.
How do you go about saying, okay, you were the one who started it, without pointing that out,
yes,
and making them feel like the bad person?
Absolutely, and that's a great question. So this is always my kids, and most other kids and parents would attest to that we've worked with. There's always the one kid who grabs the toy from the other kid. That's like a common thing that happens in the home. Always. It's like, grab your toy.
It's usually either the baby's going, I want it, or the bigger one, this is mine.
Right. So, hey, I saw you take your brother's toy. Mm-hmm. I understand you want to use it, but there's a better way. You can say to your brother, hey, Jaxie, can I take a turn? For instance. So I'm teaching them what to say, how to express what they're thinking, mm-hmm. and what they're needing from their brother. So that next time, right, that they know how to approach the situation rather than grabbing and running away and ha. Mm-hmm. Jaxie, may I have a turn? My turn. Yeah? And if it doesn't work we start over again. We keep doing it. So yes, it takes time. Yes, it's a lot of patience. But you know what, Tracy? It really does work in the end, because the other day my boys were making a camp, and I heard my older son say to my middle son, hey, Gio, I love you. Good night.
Aww.
Right? So when we think that they're fighting constantly and they're not learning and they're just not connecting, they really are. Right? Because for him to say I love you, there was a connection there between them.
Well, and that's the thing as well, is when you have more than one kid, you're only seeing when they're hollering at each other or when they're fighting. You're not seeing the quiet time when they're probably working together.
Exactly, because they fight and they make up and they play.
They're kids.
And I'm like,
every 5
what
minutes.
just happened? I'm jumping in to try to solve, and I'm looking like the fool. Because you guys are perfectly okay.
Step back until somebody cries.
Correct, exactly. And even if they cry, I just give them the space to let them figure it out. If they're fighting in the car and we're driving, one thing I've done before in the past is I'm like, if you guys want to fight, we could pull over. I'm going to pull over, and I've done it. Mommy's here. I'm going to listen to my music, or I'm going to pull a magazine up or scroll on my phone or whatever. When you're ready, let me know, and then we'll get moving. And that works.
Yeah.
Every man stops fighting.
I did that to my son and his friend once, and my son was just being a typical child, but he had hit my last nerve, and I'm like, okay, if you don't stop, then I'm going to pull over the car, and you're going to have to get out, because I can't drive like this anymore. And mom's not going to do that until I literally pulled over, and all of a sudden I didn't obviously kick them out of the car, but it got quiet the rest of the way home.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? That's not punishment.
No, that's showing a consequence.
It's illogical. Hey, I can't drive because it's not safe for me to drive when you guys are fighting back there, or something's happening back there, and my concentration, or I'm being disturbed, right? Yep. So this is what we're going to do so everyone's safe. We're going to pull over. If you guys want to fight, you can go outside and fight. Yeah. I've said that to them in the past. Do you think they're going to go outside and fight? No. No one's fighting anymore.
All of a sudden, they love each other.
Absolutely.
Okay, now I'm one of the few questions left. How do you handle bedtime?
Okay.
Because you always got a kid that don't want to go to bed.
Yeah,
I'm tired.
Bedtime struggles and morning struggles too. It's pretty much the same, actually, right? If you think about it. Bedtime routines can be a struggle for us in my home, but we've gotten a lot better because we have times. Not every family is different, Tracy, because everyone's got all sorts of things going on after school. You have hockey, and you've got football, and you've got gymnastics, and you've got swimming, and a whole range of music. And we have quite a few with the 3 boys. So every day it's different. It's never the same every single day, but there is like a general sort of pattern. We come home, we unwind for a bit, so we plan ahead. We come home, guys, okay, we're going to unwind for like 20 minutes. Then we're going to go, if you want to divide. So this is the thing, in our home, we have no device time on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. So, I mean, it's up to the parent to have, if they want to have that kind of strategy, that's what we do. So on Tuesdays, we come home, we unwind for half an hour, we sit and we have a snack together, then we get ready, we go to martial arts, we come home, we know we get home at 7 o'clock. So between 7 and 8, these are the things we've got to do. So we have to have organization.
Oh, yeah.
We've got it. We're counting down the time with them. Timers, oh my gosh. When we were growing up, there was no such thing as a timer. But timers now, they're so game-changing. And that's the thing, like now, because of the technology, there's so much
they don't
in your
know
face.
Time.
Right, so that's where you have to come in with the timers and the clocks and remind them, okay, this is the time we're coming off our devices. If you're doing device time, then it's shower time, bath time, and the last 30 minutes before the bedtime, whatever your bedtime is, whether it's 8, 8:30, 9, the last half an hour, we really want to make it the environment conducive for sleep. So the story time, the light music, as in calming music, the dim lights, that sort of thing. And of course, the kids still want to jump. My kids always still want to jump around on the bed the last 10 minutes before they go to bed. So they're jumping on the bed. And my thing is, hey guys, in 5 minutes, the lights are coming off. Mommy's feeling really tired. I need to go to bed so that I can rejuvenate for tomorrow. To look after myself and you.
We don't want a tired mommy.
Right. You need to help me to help you. Yeah, so in 5 minutes, I'm going to take those lights off and then we're going to snuggle together. I kid you not, Tracy. 5 minutes, the lights are off, every man's in his bed, everyone's snuggling, and end of story. So there's less and less and less bedtime struggles.
It's that calm down time.
Exactly.
They need it.
You just need to have the organization in place and just literally your timing with them. Of course, it's different every single day. There are days when it's a Friday night. We don't need to be so rigid or so inflexible, or Saturday night. But of course, the school nights, we want to have that structure in place and stick to it and be as consistent about it.
I mean, they look forward to the weekend time. Oh, yeah. We can stay up a little later. Back then, it was, okay, this show is on a half an hour after normal bedtime.
Yes, yeah.
So, you can watch it. Yeah. But if you've misbehaved during the week,
there's none.
There is none. And, 9 times out of 10, that worked because that was the favorite show.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, do you have books that you could suggest to people to read, or do you think it's better for them to talk? Because I'm more of a talker than a reader.
Absolutely. So I offer complimentary connection calls if someone is wanting some support and they may benefit from coaching. They can contact me on my website. It's www.jacquelinepcheng.com, and it's a bit of a mouthful, but it's JACQUELINEPCHENG.com, and they can contact me there. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook, so they can contact me there and make connection that way. Yes, when I was training to become a parenting coach, there were some basic books that I used, which helped me. But putting it into practice, that's where the support and the guidance comes in from a coach. Yeah, there are times when some parents I've worked with, they have real major childhood trauma, and they need clinical support. So we will refer and work with a therapist also. So you find therapists and coaches often work hand in hand because we are very focused on present and future tools, strategies, and guidance to support the parents in their parenting. But if they need that kind of clinical support, then we would connect them with therapists so they can get that kind of support. Because a lot of the times, what's coming up for us in terms of our triggers stems from our childhood, Tracy. our own childhood experiences and memories, which aren't often good ones.
And I think that's great you have to fix you.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I always said, in order to be a good parent, you have to be a happy person.
Absolutely. If you are not fulfilled, if your bucket isn't overflowing, how can you give to your kids? When you are depleted, when you are burnt out, there's no way you can show up for your kids the way you want to or the way that they need you to. So we need to take up us. And that's a really big thing. If there's anything that most parents take away from their sessions is self-care or self-preservation. It's essential, like totally and utterly. Whatever works for you, reading, journaling, listening to music, dancing, having a cup of tea in silence with yourself, going for a walk, a jog, going to the gym, anything that brings you joy and helps you to kind of feel like rejuvenated and helps to reset your nervous system, because it's all about our nervous system.
Oh, it's insane.
You need to feed you. Absolutely.
Exactly. Being a single parent, there was one night a week that my son went to either my mom's or my grand's house for the night, whether I went out and did anything or I just sat at home in silence.
Yes, thank you.
It was so nice, and it helped me really just. If I wanted to stay up late, 9 times out of 10, I fell asleep at the normal bedtime anyway.
Yeah.
But I actually got sleep.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that most moms complain about, not getting enough sleep and not having the support or the help. So one piece of advice I would give to moms who are suffering in that way is to get support, get community, get connected with other moms out there who are struggling. Contact me. In fact, what I would want to say is I would love to offer one family in the Windsor, Essex area a free coaching session. So if any one of them reaches out to me, the first person to reach out to me, the first family, I would be very happy and be honored to give them a free coaching session.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. I honestly learned a lot, even though I'm not a parent.
You are.
I'm still a parent, but not of young kids. But I'm sure there'll be grandchildren coming up.
Yes.
And it'll be easier to support my children in their venture to motherhood, fatherhood.
Parenthood. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Wonderful.
And I appreciate you so much. And again, this is Jacqueline P. Cheng. Yes. Who is family law, and also, what is your title again?
And a parenting coach and a positive disciplined parent educator.
Necessary. It is necessary, because I feel that if I had you, I probably wouldn't have had all of the gray hairs that I cover up. Trust me, there's a lot of money monthly for this.
I've got a few too there, Tracy. Okay.
But thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. Actually, I'm really delighted to have been here and to share my experiences and how it's worked for me and for other parents that I've worked with. And it really is, this type of approach to parenting, which is connection-based. That's what it is. It's just really connection-based.
Honestly, sounds very easy once you start implementing it.
And that's the thing. We got to start somewhere. Small steps. Celebrate every single win, small or large. And that's what I say to my parents, just baby steps. You don't have to transform your entire parenting overnight. It's going to take... I'm still on my journey, Tracy. 3 years down the line. And that's okay. Because we learn and we grow with our children. And that's the beauty of parenting.
For sure. My name is Tracy Martins, and I want to thank you for joining me for another episode of YQG in Bloom. I hope you guys all have a wonderful day.